how hard is it to monetize a podcast?
Um, so we never ran ads on our
Hmm.
podcast, so I'm not the best person to talk to when it comes to like thinking about monetization of a podcast. But the podcast did lead to not just understanding what workers need or what people want, but also what schools need and what their main pain points are and what they're willing to pay for. So we did have schools and companies willing to pay. So we helped a lot of companies with job placement. They would pay us contingency fees, like 20% of first year salary.
Right. Yeah.
Um, we did have different other resources that would present themselves to be like, hey, can we advertise here to do this and that? Um, that we didn't end up doing, but we're able to get a lot of insight into what was necessary. I think that I think that the person that does monetization the best that's no longer around. Um, he's locked up. He has a podcast called Tax Season, um, and his name's Tax Stone. The way he weaves commercials into the podcast is amazing. He's part of the Loudspeaker Network, which I still highly recommend. So shout out to Chris Morrow, A King, Combat Jack, RIP, who's now passed away. But check out Loudspeaker Network. The way
Wow.
that they run advertising
Yep.
is amazing. It's very similar to like how talk show hosts do it on the radio, where it's like a conversation. I think Jason Calcanis does a pretty good job of the way that he weaves in the commercial as a conversation, but it's still very. And this is no shade to him or anybody else. I like the way Harry Stebbings and all the other people do it with the ads. I just like it where it's very conversational.
Yep.
Um, but I still think that the main way people monetize their podcast is through ads.
Yep.
And so I would say like study those three people as an example for now.
Yep.
But I'm not the best person to answer that question.
I love what you guys do though, and it's actually funny though because I was thinking about this, but I didn't even write this as a question, and I thought I'm like, I'm like when I look at your company, it kind of reminds me. One of my friends, one of my best friends, she works as a technical recruiter,
Mm-hmm.
and they like it's her like and she works under a company where they basically um they are, let's say, freelancers in a way, but like the company takes care of all the structure and like all the paperwork and all that kind of stuff, right? And I'm like, man, this is so cool. What you guys are doing are like that, but at a scale like 1,000x scale. And I think the one thing that's lacking over there is like it's like the trust part and the credibility part and all that stuff and the giving out value part. And I think with your podcast, it's basically a channel to just give out value to get people to like first like, hey, trust in us, and like we're not full of shit. We've done all this stuff, and that kind of brings you in the funnel, and that kind of like then when someone's open to that mindset, okay, this is possible, then you kind of give them more resources and walk them through it.
You're touching on something very important. Content is king,
Mm-hmm.
and podcast is just one form of content that we provide. Written content is what we provide. We
Yep.
got YouTube videos, youtube.com/career karma. Check it out. Um, I just wrote a blog for the Series A. But like the whole point of the content is to build trust,
Yep.
right? And to let people know that we are unbiased,
Yep.
right? To explain why we match you to certain programs that have been vetted for quality. To give you examples of other people that look like you that have used these resources to get to where they want to go.
Yep.
Once you build that trust, it's with you for life, but it's
Yep.
also sacred, right? Any any slipping on that trust, any type of shadiness will damage the reputation of the entire community. And that's our responsibility as founders to make sure that we maintain that integrity forever.
I love that.